We spend so much time obsessing over what we do with our brains during the day. We worry about solving puzzles, reading complex books, learning new languages, or picking up new skills to keep our minds sharp. We download brain training apps. We force ourselves through crossword puzzles even when we would rather be watching a good movie. We feel guilty if we spend an afternoon relaxing instead of actively challenging our neurons. But there is a fascinating paradox in neuroscience that most people completely overlook, and once you understand it, it might just change the way you think about brain health forever. It turns out that the most critical work your brain does to protect your memory and cognitive function does not happen while you are awake, furiously solving puzzles. It happens while you are asleep. During those quiet hours when you are completely unconscious, your brain is running an incredibly sophisticated maintenance operation. And here is the part that stopped me in my tracks when I first learned about it. The fuel you provide your body in the few hours before your head hits, the pillow can be the deciding factor in whether your brain repairs itself tonight, or whether it struggles through a suboptimal cleaning cycle. Think about that for a moment. We obsess over breakfast because we have been told it is the most important meal of the day. We carefully plan our lunches to avoid that afternoon energy crash. But how much thought do we give to what we eat in the evening? For most people, the answer is very little. The evening is when we let our guard down. It is when the cookies come out, when the chips get opened, when we reward ourselves for surviving another day. And I am not here to shame anyone for that. But I am here to show you that with a very small shift in what you reach for in those evening hours, you might be giving your brain exactly what it needs to wake up sharper, clearer, and more refreshed. Most dietary advice focuses on breakfast or lunch, but today we are going to flip the script entirely. We are going to look at three very specific, common fruits that, when eaten in the evening, may specifically support that nightly brain restoration process. These are not exotic superfoods you need to order from another continent. These are fruits you have probably seen at your local grocery store hundreds of times. And I have to tell you, the third one on this list is something you have probably walked past 1,000 times without realizing it holds a secret connection to deep, restorative rest and cognitive maintenance. When I discovered the research behind it, I genuinely felt a little cheated that no one had told me sooner. Before we dive into the science, I want to take a brief moment to see who is here with us today. I always say this is a community, not just a channel. The comment section here is not like other places on the internet. It is warm, supportive, and filled with people who genuinely care about living well as they age. So pause for just a second and drop a comment down below. Let me know your age and which city or country you are watching from. Whether you are tuning in from a small town in Ohio or watching from the other side of the world in Australia, I want to know. It is genuinely the highlight of my day to sit down with a cup of tea in the evening and read through where all of you are connecting from. I often find myself looking up cities I have never heard of and learning about places I never knew existed. So please, say hello. Let me know you are here. It makes this feel like a real conversation instead of me just talking into a camera. Now, why are we talking about the evening specifically? Why does the timing of what you eat matter so much? To understand this, we have to touch on something called the glymphatic system. You do not need to memorize that name, and there will not be a test at the end of this video. But you should absolutely know what it does, because once you understand it, you will never think about sleep the same way again. Think of the glymphatic system as the night shift cleaning crew for your brain. During the day, your brain cells are incredibly busy. They are firing signals, processing information, making decisions, storing memories, and managing every single function in your body. All of that activity creates metabolic waste. It is like running a factory all day long. By the end of the shift, there is debris everywhere, cellular trash that needs to be taken out. Here is where it gets remarkable. When you go into deep sleep, your brain cells actually shrink. They physically contract, becoming up to 60% smaller than they are during waking hours. This creates space between the cells, and that space allows cerebral spinal fluid to wash through your brain tissue like a gentle tide, flushing out that accumulated waste. Among the waste products being cleared are proteins like beta amyloid and tau, which you may have heard about in connection with cognitive decline and memory disorders. The research on this system, which was only discovered about a decade ago by Dr. Macon Nedergaard and her team at the University of Rochester, has completely transformed our understanding of why sleep is so essential for brain health. Now here is the connection that brings us back to what you eat in the evening. Inflammation and poor sleep quality can essentially shut down that cleaning crew or at least make them far less efficient. If you eat heavy, inflammatory foods late at night. Your body is busy doing digestive work and fighting that inflammation rather than prioritizing brain cleanup. Your sleep becomes lighter and more fragmented. You might still be unconscious for 7 or 8 hours, but the quality of that unconsciousness matters enormously. However, and this is where it gets exciting, certain fruits contain specific compounds that not only reduce that inflammation, but also prepare your neurochemistry for that critical deep sleep phase. They contain nutrients that support the production of sleep-regulating hormones, antioxidants that calm oxidative stress, and compounds that improve blood flow to the brain right when your brain needs it most. Of course, I want to be clear and responsible here before we go any further, and I do not know your specific medical history. Nothing we discuss today is intended to diagnose, cure, or treat any disease. This is educational content based on published research, but your body is unique. Always listen to your own healthcare team, especially if you have conditions like diabetes where fruit intake and blood sugar need to be monitored carefully. If anything I discussed today sounds like it might help you, bring it up with your doctor at your next visit. They know your situation far better than I ever could. With that said, let us get into the first fruit, and this is one that has some of the most compelling and well-established research behind it regarding memory protection. It is the humble blueberry. Now I know what you might be thinking. You have heard about blueberries a million times. Every health article seems to mention them. They have become almost cliché in the wellness world. But here is what most people do not realize, and this is the part that made me sit up and pay attention. The benefit of blueberries for the brain is not just about generic antioxidant power. It is about something far more specific. It is about blood flow. As we age, one of the subtle but significant challenges we face is maintaining robust blood flow to the deepest parts of the brain. The brain is an absolute resource hog. It represents only about 2% of your body weight, but it demands roughly 20% of your blood supply and oxygen. When blood flow to the brain decreases, cognitive function tends to follow. It is simple plumbing in a way. If the pipes get narrower or less efficient, less gets delivered. Blueberries are rich in a specific type of flavonoid called anthocyanins. These are the compounds that give them that deep, beautiful, almost purple-blue color. The darker the blueberry, the more anthocyanins it typically contains. And research suggests that these anthocyanins have a unique and somewhat unusual ability. They can cross the blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier is exactly what it sounds like. It is a highly selective membrane that protects your brain from potentially harmful substances circulating in your bloodstream. Most compounds you consume never make it past that barrier, but anthocyanins from blueberries appear to be among the privileged few that can get through. Once inside, they accumulate in regions associated with learning and memory. A study published in the journal Nutrients just a few years ago, conducted by researchers at the University of Cincinnati, looked specifically at middle-aged and older adults with mild cognitive impairment. Participants were divided into groups, with one group consuming the equivalent of about a cup of blueberries daily in powdered form, while the other received a placebo. Over the course of the study, those consuming blueberries showed measurable improvements in cognitive testing, particularly in tasks that required accessing words and concepts quickly. Their brains were essentially retrieving information more efficiently. It was not magic. The researchers believe the anthocyanins reduced neuroinflammation and improved signaling between brain cells. When brain cells can communicate more efficiently, you think more clearly. It is as straightforward as that. So why eat them in the evening specifically? It comes down to two factors: blood sugar management and oxidative stress recovery. After a long day, your body has accumulated oxidative stress. Think of it as rust on a cellular level. Every breath you take, every thought you think, every movement you make generates free radicals as a byproduct. Throughout the day, these free radicals build up. Providing a dose of potent antioxidants in the evening, perhaps an hour or two after dinner, acts as a sort of cooling system for that cellular inflammation before you go to sleep. You are essentially giving your body the tools to calm things down right before the night crew gets to work. Additionally, blueberries are relatively low on the glycemic index compared to other fruits like bananas, grapes, or melons. This is crucial because a massive spike in blood sugar right before bed can lead to a corresponding crash in the middle of the night, which wakes you up and interrupts the brain cleaning process we talked about. You might not even fully wake up. You might just shift from deep sleep into lighter sleep stages without realizing it. But your glymphatic system notices, and its efficiency drops. A small bowl of blueberries provides that satisfying sweetness without triggering a massive insulin response. I personally like to have a small handful, maybe half a cup, about 2 hours before bed. Sometimes I will pair them with just a few walnuts or a small piece of dark chocolate. The healthy fats in walnuts may help your body absorb those fat-soluble nutrients more effectively, and they also help keep your blood sugar even more stable. It has become a ritual for me, something I actually look forward to in the evening. It feels like a treat, it tastes delicious, but it is quietly working as a shield for my brain. Now let us move to the second fruit, and this one is specifically for those of you who might find that your mind races when you try to sleep, or you toss and turn, or you simply do not feel rested when you wake up even after what seemed like a full night. We are talking about tart cherries. Please note the distinction here because this is important. I'm not talking about the bright red, sugary, artificially colored maraschino cherries you find on top of an ice cream sundae or in a cocktail. Those are essentially candy and will not help you at all. I'm referring to sour or tart cherries, often known by the variety name Montmorency. They have a completely different nutritional profile. This is where the science gets genuinely fascinating. Tart cherries are one of the very few natural food sources that contain actual melatonin. You have probably heard of melatonin as a supplement. Millions of people take it in pill form to help them sleep. But there is something elegant about getting melatonin from food rather than a pill. Our bodies seem to prefer nutrients delivered in their natural matrix, surrounded by the other compounds they evolved alongside. The absorption is gentler, the effects more subtle, and there are no dosing questions to worry about. But the benefits of tart cherries extend beyond just their melatonin content. They also contain compounds called procyanidins, which increase the availability of tryptophan in your body. Tryptophan is an amino acid that serves as a building block for both serotonin and melatonin. You might have heard about tryptophan in connection with turkey and feeling sleepy after Thanksgiving dinner. The same principle applies here. By increasing tryptophan availability, tart cherries help regulate your entire sleep-wake cycle. A study published in the European Journal of Nutrition examined what happened when participants consumed tart cherry juice concentrate over a period of time. The researchers found that participants who drank the cherry juice saw a measurable increase in their melatonin levels. But more importantly, those increased melatonin levels translated into real-world improvements. Participants experienced longer sleep duration and better overall sleep quality as measured by established sleep assessment tools. Why does this matter for your brain specifically? Because memory consolidation, the process of moving a short-term memory into long-term storage, happens primarily during specific stages of sleep. There is a phase of sleep called slow-wave sleep or deep sleep, where your brain is essentially taking the experiences of your day and deciding which ones to file away permanently and which ones to discard. If you are cutting your sleep short, if you are waking up frequently, if you are tossing and turning and never dropping into those deeper stages, you are essentially interrupting the save button on your day's memories. Think about it like working on a document on your computer all day but never hitting save. When the power goes out, you lose everything. Quality sleep is when your brain hits save. And by consuming tart cherries in the evening, you are not just helping your body rest. You are potentially supporting the physical architecture of your memory. Now I know fresh tart cherries can be difficult to find depending on where you live and what season it is. They have a relatively short harvest window, and many grocery stores simply do not stock them. So many people opt for tart cherry juice, which is available year-round in most health food stores and increasingly in regular supermarkets. If you go this route, you absolutely must be a detective. Turn that bottle around and look at the label carefully. You want 100% tart cherry juice, not a cherry-flavored cocktail mixed with apple juice and high-fructose corn syrup. Some brands dilute their products so much that you would need to drink half the bottle to get any meaningful amount of actual cherry. Look for concentrate if you can find it. You only need a small amount. About 4 to 6 ounces is what was typically used in the research studies, and that amount delivered results. Another option that I find very convenient, especially living in a climate where fresh tart cherries are rare, is buying them frozen. Most well-stocked grocery stores carry frozen tart cherries in the freezer section. You can let a small bowl of them thaw while you are watching your evening news or reading a book. It takes about 30 to 40 minutes at room temperature. They have a wonderful, tangy bite that wakes up the palate. It is not a sweet, sugary experience like eating candy cherries. There is genuine tartness there, almost a sourness. But it is incredibly satisfying, and something about that flavor seems to calm down the nervous system. I cannot explain the science behind that particular sensation, but I have experienced it myself many times. And now we arrive at the third fruit. This is the one I mentioned at the beginning that might genuinely surprise you. It is often looked at as just a breakfast garnish or an afterthought in a fruit salad, but the data suggests it might be a nighttime superfood for the aging brain. That fruit is the kiwi. Yes, the fuzzy little kiwi. The fruit that most people slice in half, scoop out with a spoon, and never think twice about. When I first came across the research on kiwis and sleep, I thought there had to be some mistake. It seemed too simple, but the study was real, the methods were sound, and the results were quite remarkable. Researchers at Taipei Medical University conducted a study where they had adult participants eat 2 kiwis 1 hour before bedtime for 4 weeks. They tracked multiple measures of sleep quality using established assessment tools. At the end of the study period, the participants fell asleep 35% faster than they had before starting the kiwi regimen. They also slept 13% longer overall. For anyone who has struggled with falling asleep or staying asleep, those numbers are not trivial. That is a meaningful improvement in sleep quality. What is going on inside a fuzzy little kiwi to cause effects like that? The answer involves several compounds working together. First, kiwis are surprisingly high in serotonin. We usually think of serotonin as the happy hormone, the neurotransmitter associated with mood and emotional well-being. But serotonin is also a direct precursor to melatonin. Your body converts serotonin into melatonin as part of the process of preparing for sleep. So by providing serotonin directly through food, kiwis may be supporting that conversion process. Furthermore, kiwis are packed with folate, also known as vitamin B9. This is where we see a connection that many people have never considered. There is a growing body of evidence suggesting that folate deficiency may be linked to insomnia and restless leg syndrome, both of which can absolutely destroy sleep quality in older adults. Restless leg syndrome in particular becomes more common as we age, and it creates an irresistible urge to move your legs just as you are trying to fall asleep. It is maddening for those who experience it. If inadequate folate is contributing to that problem for some people, then a folate-rich food like kiwi might offer some relief. But we are not done with kiwis yet. When you look at brain health through the lens of aging, you always have to consider the blood vessels. The brain is a resource hog, as I mentioned earlier. It demands about 20% of your body's oxygen and blood flow. Everything that supports vascular health supports brain health by extension. And kiwis are incredibly high in vitamin C ounce for ounce. Kiwis actually contain more vitamin C than oranges. This often surprises people because oranges have such strong marketing behind them as the vitamin C fruit, but kiwis quietly outperform them. Vitamin C is crucial for the elasticity and health of your blood vessels. It supports the production of collagen, which keeps vessel walls flexible and responsive. By keeping those pathways clear and flexible, you are ensuring that oxygen and nutrients can reach the deepest parts of your brain tissue. You are also supporting the blood-brain barrier we talked about earlier, helping it remain selective and protective. So how do you implement this into your evening routine? The study used 2 kiwis, which might be a bit much for some people to start with, especially if you are not used to eating kiwis regularly. You might begin with just one and see how you feel. Pay attention to your sleep quality over a week or two. Your body will tell you if it is making a difference. And here is a little tip that sounds strange but is worth considering. The skin of the kiwi is actually edible. I know. It is fuzzy. The texture takes some getting used to. Most people slice off that skin without a second thought because it seems like it should not be eaten. But the skin contains a massive amount of fiber and additional antioxidants that you completely lose when you peel it. If you can find the golden kiwis, which have smoother, less fuzzy skin, I highly recommend washing them thoroughly and eating them like an apple. You simply bite right in. It sounds odd until you try it, and then it becomes surprisingly normal. If you prefer the green kiwis with the traditional fuzzy skin and you simply cannot stomach that texture, I understand completely. Cutting it in half and scooping it out with a spoon is perfectly fine. You are still getting the serotonin, the folate, the vitamin C, and the other beneficial compounds. You are just missing out on some extra fiber. Now at this point, you might be wondering something practical. Can you just mix all 3 of these into a giant fruit salad and eat it right before you brush your teeth? A blueberry, cherry, kiwi super bowl to end all evenings. I want to urge a little caution here, and this is where I put on my practical hat. While fruit is natural and whole food based, it is still sugar in the form of fructose. And as we get into our 60s, 70s, and beyond, our digestion tends to slow down. The muscular contractions that move food through your digestive system become less vigorous. Stomach acid production often decreases. Everything just takes a bit longer. Eating a large volume of food immediately before lying down in a horizontal position can lead to acid reflux or heartburn. That burning sensation in your chest, that uncomfortable feeling of food wanting to come back up. And if you have ever experienced reflux during the night, you know it will absolutely ruin your sleep and undo all the good work we are trying to achieve. You will wake up uncomfortable, probably need to get up and take an antacid, and your sleep architecture for the night will be disrupted. The sweet spot, based on both the research and practical experience, seems to be about 1 to 2 hours before bed. This gives your body enough time to digest the sugars and begin absorbing the nutrients. The food moves out of your stomach and into your small intestine where the real absorption happens. But it is still close enough to bedtime that the melatonin precursors, the serotonin, the calming compounds can do their job when you actually turn out the lights. Also, listen to your body carefully. Everyone is different. If you have particularly sensitive teeth, the acid in tart cherries or kiwis might cause some discomfort. If you have a sensitive stomach or issues with acidity in general, you might find that these fruits need to be paired with something neutral to buffer that acid. A small piece of cheese works well, a handful of almonds, even a small serving of yogurt if dairy agrees with you. These pairings can neutralize some of the fruit acid while adding their own beneficial compounds, like the magnesium in almonds or the probiotics in yogurt. I also want to address the skeptics for a moment, because I know some of you are thinking this. Is eating a kiwi before bed really going to stop my memory from slipping? Is a handful of blueberries going to make me sharp as a tack? And that is a valid and intelligent question. It shows you are thinking critically, which is exactly what I want. The honest answer is that no single food is a miracle cure. If you're smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, never exercising, eating processed junk food at every meal, and staying up until 2 in the morning watching television, a bowl of blueberries at night is not going to magically fix everything. We have to be realistic and honest about that. These fruits are not medicine. They are not a substitute for actual medical care if you are experiencing concerning cognitive symptoms. However, and this is important, health at our age is rarely about one giant leap. It is almost never about finding the one secret that changes everything overnight. It is about the accumulation of small, positive nudges over time. It is about 1% improvements stacking on top of each other day after day, week after week, month after month. If eating these fruits improves your sleep quality by just 10%, and that 10% improvement happens every single night for a year, think about the cumulative rest your brain has received. Think about how much more efficient that nightly cleaning process has been over 365 nights. Think about slightly reduced inflammation compounding over time. Think about slightly better blood flow to your brain, night after night after night. That is where the real impact happens. Not in dramatic overnight transformations, but in the quiet accumulation of better choices. I remember when I first started focusing on my evening routine a few years ago. I felt a bit silly, honestly. Planning my evening snacks felt so minor compared to the big health interventions we hear about. It seemed almost trivial. I was reading about new medications and advanced treatments, and here I was, carefully selecting which fruit to eat before bed. But I committed to trying it for a month just to see. After about 3 weeks, I noticed something. I was not searching for words as often in the middle of sentences. You know that feeling when you're talking and the word you want is right there, just out of reach, and you end up saying something like that thing or whatchamacallit. That was happening less frequently. I also felt less foggy when I woke up in the morning. That mental cobweb feeling that used to take an hour and 2 cups of coffee to clear seemed to lift faster. Was it definitively the fruit? I cannot prove causation. Maybe it was placebo. Maybe it was something else entirely. Or maybe, just maybe, by choosing the fruit, I was not choosing the cookies or the potato chips that I used to eat mindlessly while watching television in the evening. It was a replacement strategy that served me twice. I was adding something beneficial while simultaneously removing something detrimental. The net effect was probably larger than either change alone. So here is my challenge to you, and I mean this genuinely. For the next week, try incorporating just one of these fruits into your evening routine. You do not need to do all 3 at once. Pick the one that sounds most appealing or most convenient for you. Maybe Monday is blueberry night. Tuesday is kiwi night. Wednesday you try the tart cherry juice. Pay attention to how you sleep. Pay attention to how clear your head feels when you wake up the next morning. Keep a little mental note or even jot it down in a journal if you are the type who likes to track things. Treat your body like a personal laboratory and be the scientist of your own health. Nobody knows your body better than you do. Nobody lives in it 24 hours a day like you do. The research gives us general guidance, but your individual response is what matters for your life. It is easy to feel powerless when we hear about aging and the brain. We see frightening statistics about cognitive decline. We watch family members struggle and we worry that the same fate awaits us. We feel like passengers in a vehicle we cannot control, heading toward a destination we did not choose. But I want you to remember something important. Your brain is incredibly resilient. It is capable of repair and growth, even now, even at 60, 70, 80, and beyond. The concept of neuroplasticity tells us that the brain can form new connections and strengthen existing ones throughout our entire lives. You have more control over your cognitive destiny than you might think. And sometimes that control starts with something as simple and humble as what you put in your bowl in the evening hours. If you found this helpful, I would love for you to join our inner circle here on the channel by clicking that subscribe button. We are building a library of practical, research-based, hype-free health information specifically for people in our stage of life. No miracle cures, no exaggerated promises, just honest information you can actually use. And if you know a friend, a sibling, a spouse, or any family member who has been complaining about their sleep or worrying about their memory, please hit the share button and send this video to them. You might be giving them exactly the tip they needed to finally get a good night of restorative rest. I'm genuinely curious. Which of these 3 fruits are you most likely to try first? Are you a tart cherry person ready to seek out that Montmorency juice? Are you going to stock up on blueberries this weekend? Or are you willing to give the kiwi a shot, maybe even brave enough to try eating the skin? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment and I will see you there. Until next time, take good care of yourself. Your brain is counting on you and you are absolutely worth the effort. I will see you in the next video.